The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NOGE, Osun State chapter, has raised alarm over what it described as an unprecedented abuse of power by key federal government officials in the handling of the state's local government allocations. The state NOGE president, Dr. Nathaniel Ogungbangbe, had accused the Minister of Finance, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Attorney General of the Federation of unlawfully releasing Osun's local government funds into accounts operated by sacked All Progressives APC chairmen and councillors. Reacting to the claims by NOGE on Monday, the federal government denied that it had released the withheld Osun State local government financial allocation to chairmen and councillors of the All Progressives Congress in 2022. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the Accountant General of the Federation, AGF, made the denial at the resumed hearing of the suit challenging the planned release of the local government funds to the APC chairmen and councillors. Joining us to discuss the Osun local government funds situation in the state is Mike Aondoakaa, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice. He will also take a look at the constitutional review in relation to access to court, especially in the presentation of evidence. Thank you very much for joining us, Chief Mike Aondoakaa, on the program.
Yeah, good morning and happy independence in advance.
Thank you very much. Well, very quickly, Osun local government issue. This has been on the table. The matter was determined at the Federal High Court, Osogbo. It went to the Court of Appeal, and then there have been accusations on both sides between the PDP and the APC. The PDP ruling in Osun State saying that the APC government is trying to play politics, seize the funds, and also give the funds to the APC, which in their own report lost at the Federal High Court level, lost at the Court of Appeal level. The matter is pending at the Supreme Court level. Now the federal government says, well, we have not given any money to the APC councillors. But two issues here. What do you think in terms of the judicial process? And also, secondly, this whole idea of the federal government seizing the funds of the local councils in Osun State and the associated irony of President Tinubu, who fought valiantly against the Obasanjo administration, doing more or less the same thing. And then against the background of the settled matter in the precedents in the Anambra case.
Well, thank you very much. The issue seemed to be very confusing. Confusing in the sense that we have a settled position of the laws that local government funds cannot be withheld. And that was decided in the case as far back as you know involving Lagos State government during President Obasanjo by the Supreme Court. But at the same time, we have Section 7 of the Constitution, which is very germane to the legitimacy of the existence of any local government administration. And that section hinges on the fact that the local government must be democratically elected. In other words, that should be a condition precedent for release of funds, in my opinion, because funds cannot be released to people who are not democratically elected. That will amount to a violation of the Constitution. If the scenario is in two ways, there has been a habit of subsequent administration terminating the tenure of local government officials who were properly and duly elected in an election conducted by their predecessors. Sometimes their tenure still It happened in Makurdi, Benue State, where my friends, the Swam administration came in and terminated the appointments, dissolved the local government, who were duly elected with a fixed tenure. The matter went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually awarded damages against them, against Benue State government. Unfortunately, the local government chairman could not be brought back, but they were paid their full salary to the end of their tenure, even though they were dissolved. Then recently it played out again in Benue State, where the present administration dissolved local government that were having a fixed tenure. And the tenure was still in existence. The matter is still pending in court. But we also have Supreme Court decisions that said tenures of duly elected local government officials, that is chairman, deputy chairman, and councillor, cannot be dissolved except their tenure expires by a fluxion of time or a removal of the local government chairman or councillor is in accordance with the laid down local government law. Now, this is the scenario that has continued to play out in various state government. They come in, the local government chairmen were elected on an election conducted by the previous administration with a fixed tenure, maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years. As soon as the new governor comes, he dissolves those people without due regard to those elections. And I believe this is the scenario that is playing out in Osun State and has played out in many states. Now, there has been a recent Supreme Court judgment that said local government funds should be directly sent to the local governments. The idea here that is confusing, which I don't think local government's funds will be sent to APC as is being rumored, because the chairmen do not own personal accounts of the local governments. But it does appear that the funds are sent to the local government accounts that were opened by the duly elected chairman and duly elected officials whose tenure might have been terminated unlawfully. That is the scenario. But as you say, the matter is still pending in the Supreme Court. I will not overreach in my comments, but it does appear that something went wrong. The tenure of those local governments is still in existence, and it has not expired, but unilaterally they were dissolved. And that might have been the confusion that is arose. But we have to be very careful. We have to make sure the states understand that local government is another tier of government. Even though the law, the Constitution gives the State House of Assembly the power to enact legislations on local government. It does not.
Well, hello, sir. Hello,
it does
sir.
not in any way give them the power to dissolve. But before I go on, let me offer my condolences. I would have done that before we commence. Because you called me an in-house person, so I'm supposed to have done that. My condolences at the date of Samin. It was very unfortunate.
Well, the situation in Benue is not the same as in Osun State, and that the local government chairmen and councillors were removed by court order at the Federal High Court level and also at the Court of Appeal level. Is it right for the federal government to open new accounts and to pay those APC chairmen and councillors play politics the federal government says, oh, we have not done that. But on the front page of the Nation newspaper, the newspaper of the president of Nigeria, this same chairman said they have been paid, APC. In other words, the federal government overruling the courts and in fact going ahead of the Supreme Court. Is that right?
Well, Ruben, it's unfortunate. The matter is prejudice, is sub judice. And if it's sub judice, both parties supposed to show restraint. I do not know the circumstances in which the federal government went ahead to pay. But if they were properly removed by a court order, that is unfortunate. Because the only way I have always said, and I will emphasize, is that we must obey court orders. And if a court order, no matter how you feel about it, the only remedy is to appeal against the court order until you reach the highest court. But since the matter is sub judice, I will not go deeper on that. Okay. But to answer you, if the facts are the way you have presented, I don't think it's proper.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. The Tribune also reports, even with details of the accounts opened with UBA, stating the account number and the temporary accounts that were opened by these by the APC chairmen. So there are accounts open, and according to the Nation, they actually also received money. But you've already said, even though it's sub judice, and we totally agree with you, but you've also talked about the fact that if indeed, which we've now presented, the evidence that they paid money, that it's not proper. How do we challenge this improper behavior, as it were? Could they be held in contempt? And there's also the matter around the Osun State challenging why the case is being moved from the state to Abuja, and talks around even the justice system, the judiciary itself. How do we make things proper? That's perhaps my question this morning.
Yeah, your question is right, and that is a question every Nigerian is asking. And that is a question even myself, I will join you in asking. Because, you see, we have a system, and all of us have gone through this system. And if we have gone through this system, our desire is to strengthen the system. You understand? If we cried out injustice, that monies was withheld unfairly in the past, and Supreme Court came in, gave decisions, and eventually, I think when the President Aondoakaa came in, that was the first thing to do, he did. We believe that that precedent has been laid and everybody is expected to follow. But you know, this is a strange circumstances. Circumstance in the fact that a case is still pending in court, then there's a subsequent judgment in favor of another party, then the other party is made to have an advantage. If the facts are there the way you have presented, it's unfortunate.
Okay.
But then it does appear that everybody is heading to the APC court, and the parties who is affected by this order can adduce additional evidence to show continuous violation. I think the Supreme Court, in the case of Zamfara, came heavily, though it was not in a matter relating withholding of the funds of local government, but the fact that subsisting court orders were pending, and then APC went ahead and did congresses, and that was unfortunate. You know what Supreme Court did? The entire election that was conducted by INEC, Supreme Court, that was throwaway votes.
Okay.
I am saying it's not a similar situation, but the attitude of Supreme Court in where there's continuous violation of subsisting court orders.
Okay.
That is the way they react. So
Okay.
we'll also wait and see with additional evidence Osun State will present, because this is a violation that happened, alleged violation that happened during the pendency of an action. Therefore, they must seek leave to adduce additional evidence, whether the case is pending in the Supreme Court, and that can really create. Supreme Court will certainly take action that will stabilize the system.
But with due respect, I'm sorry, you will be the one to correct me because I'll make a very wrong postulation here. The Supreme Court will not do anything about it. And that's how a lot of Nigerians feel, because this case involves the federal government. Just like we saw the Supreme Court not react to the matter before them as regards the Rivers case. That's the state of emergency in Rivers. But I want to get your consent on this. We've been able to determine by evidence of reportage from President Tinubu's newspaper, The Nation, and the Tribune, that monies were paid. But hear what the federal government lawyer said. Murtala Abdurrashid and Tajuddin Oladoja, both sons who represented the CBN and AGF, respectively denied that their client had effected the release of money to the APC local government chairman as alleged by the plaintiff. This from this day. In their separate submissions, the two senior lawyers insisted that the information by the plaintiff counsel remains in the realms of rumor and in the absence of documentary evidence. What should be done to these lawyers now that we have evidence, documentary evidence?
Wait, we cannot be talking of what should be done to the lawyers, Rufai. I have highest respect for you. But what should be done to people who supply the lawyers this information? A lawyer does not create evidence. The evidence are given to the lawyers. And every lawyer who is arguing in court will state the person who gave him the evidence. So this is where the scenario is coming in a manner that we will also watch and see what is going to happen. I don't want you, all of us, not to give up on the Supreme Court. Can you allow me to finish?
Okay, go ahead. Finish up, sir.
Yes. You know, Supreme Court, we should take the generality of actions Supreme Court has gone in to step in to serve the situation. Mind you, in the case of Zamfara, which is not relating to the withholding of money, it was still the federal government, APC government, that was in power. But the entire councillors, governor, everybody was removed because the primaries were not done in accordance with the law, and the votes were declared. It's a different scenario. But I want you to understand that Supreme Court has been reacting to issues in a manner that meets the circumstances of the case.
Okay. No, with due respect, sir, I need to come in because of time.
Rivers State is an isolated matter.
I need to come in because of time, with due respect.
Yes.
It's a different scenario, sir. That was Supreme Court under Buhari. That was Supreme Court under another Chief Justice. This is Supreme Court under President Tinubu. There are different scenarios. And we've pointed out empirically, is it not the Supreme Court that heard the case speedily of local government election in Rivers last year, but today dragging feet about state of emergency? So are you telling me, sir, with due respect, that if a lawyer is supplied false information, a senior advocate, he can't fact check and verify the information his clients have given him? Because now you are trying to exonerate the lawyers that is the information they gave them. So he can't fact check what he was given.
No, wait. When we make a deposition, the client will say, I very believe the information I have given, and the information, if it's in breach of the oath, I will be held liable. So what I'm trying to say is that the client is the person and the deponent is always the client. And the deponent say, I verified this information, I very believe it, and going further, he said, in accordance with the oath act. So the lawyer does not come in. The lawyer does not come in. It is those people that gave the information. If it is found out that this information is true, because now there's a dispute, And this dispute can be a material dispute.
Right.
That when dispute in such a manner are adduced on affidavit evidence, the only thing the court does is to take oral evidence.
All right.
Okay.
So this is where
So what is happening now
Osun
is that
State will
the
produce
CBN and the... So what's happening now is that the CBN and the AGF give false information to their lawyers based on other facts. So because we don't know the facts
until
yet.
that is until the oral evidence is taken.
Okay.
Because now we are talking based on newspaper publications.
Okay.
But the factual fact will come on, they have denied, and then the other party, which I earlier said, will seek leave of court to adduce oral evidence to show, oral and documentary evidence to show that this evidence controvert what you have said. In that case, the officials who made the position that they have not paid money, if it comes out that they have paid money, they will face the Oath Act, which is a different scenario. But no allegations, no matter how strong they are, amounts to nothing but allegations.
Sir.
But we are practicing a system. Can I finish this statement?
Okay.
We are practicing a system that is based on the burden of proof. If you say, I have done this, I have paid the money, and I say, I have not, the burden has shifted on those persons that are alleging they have paid. And that will become a factual point in the court of law where evidence will be taken. And those, if truly that money was paid, it will be unfortunate.
Okay.
The officials who allege they did not pay, not the lawyers,
quickly, sir.
but the official who allege the deponents will face the music.
Quickly, sir, in the introduction, we talked about access to justice. If you can just comment on that very quickly, because we're running out of time.
Okay, let me comment on one point which I expect the National Assembly to address on access to justice in electoral matters. The electoral matter in itself said in all cases of election petition, INEC, who conducted election, is a statutory defendant. Now, we have two sets of laws. You have the electoral law and you have the law of evidence that guides evidence in all proceedings, civil proceedings. But election petitions are sui generis. Therefore, first, there's an abnormality. You could not say that an adversary who has custody of evidence that you need to subpoena should be a deponent at the time you are filing a petition, should make a deposition. That is, and the law cannot create an impossibility. INEC conduct election, and you are doubting the election, you challenge it, you say the result that was collected is not the same result that was none, you subpoena them to depose. And at the end of the day, they say the evidence came after you have filed the petition, and it's thrown out. That is not normal.
All right, sir.
And that is something, the Evidence Act now should be made clear that Evidence Act applies in subpoenaed evidence even after a petition has been filed, when the evidence is in custody of the adversary.
Thank you so much,
That will be
sir.
better.
Thank
or
you.
Government official.
Thank you.
Because it does not make sense
All right,
to
sir.
me. And that is what most of the petitions suffered last time.
All right.
Everybody say, oh, you filed your INEC deposition came after you have filed the petition. How does that make sense?
All right, sir.
INEC is the defendant. How will I go to a defendant and say, give me a deposition, I want to file a petition against you? So that has to be corrected in this National Assembly.
Absolutely. Thank you so very
Of
much
course,
for your time with us, sir. Mr. Aondoakaa, I'm so sorry. We're completely out of time. But thank you so much for your submission this morning. We look forward to the next time we'll have you on the morning show. Thank you.